Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of News You Can Use. It's so great to be with you today. My name is Ann Baldwin, the host of this program, and I'm so happy to finally have a guest in studio with me today, Jim Bologa. He's the president and CEO of Porter and Chester Institute, as well as YTI Career Institute up in Pennsylvania. So, Jim, welcome to the program.
And it's a pleasure to be here. I'm super excited.
We were just talking before the show. I got to share some of the banter that we just had because Jim does have a perfect radio show voice. I mean, you're going to find that out during the show. So it's going to be easy listening today, right, Jim?
Absolutely, Ann.
You love radio, though, right? I mean, you've got a lot on your plate, but you've always kind of had this second desire to maybe be a radio guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always thought about that. I've had people tell me that I've got a great radio voice, and and again, you and I co-host a podcast together,
Right.
which is also pretty cool. And it's a great way to, I think, pass time listening to the radio. I grew up doing that, and whether it was listening to music or talk shows, I thought it was always very cool. And now the fact that you can have AirPods in your ears
Right.
as you're doing yard work or walking outside
it's
or doing whatever.
accessible. Yeah.
It's really quite good, and the fact that you can either listen in live or just listen to a recorded show. It's a great way to pass some time.
It sure is. Keeps you occupied when you're doing all that hard labor. Well, speaking of labor, let's talk a little bit about the state of, not only the labor market here in Connecticut, but nationwide. We've got these huge jams with the supply chain saying that there just aren't enough workers. But what we really want to focus in on today is the skilled trades, Jim, because that's what Porter and Chester is focused on. And what's the state of the industry right now?
How long do we have? Yeah, and I think what we see in the marketplace, in the areas that we provide educational services, is that employers are very interested in our graduates. So whether you're interested in becoming an automotive technician, a electrician, an HVAC technician, a plumber, or an electronic systems tech,
Or dental assisting?
yeah, dental assisting, medical assisting, practical nurse.
Right.
We also have programs through our Pennsylvania school, YTI Career Institute, around respiratory therapy. And again, they're very, very important as we continue, in this pandemic that we're in. So the respiratory therapists are continuing to working very hard with regards to COVID. And then, we have a veterinary technician program. So again, like a vet nurse, and again, all of us have animals and are taking them to the vet for various services. So we really have a broad, I would say, swath of vocational programs, occupations, and each one of those, the employers that we talk to on a daily basis need more people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the markets that we're in the country as a whole, I think, is at an inflection point, because when you look at the cost to go to a school like ours, the opportunity cost is 1 year. The opportunity cost to go to maybe a community college or traditional education, is either 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years, depending on how long it takes you to graduate. And we're really very proud in the fact that we most of our graduates are done in a year's time, give or take, in terms of folks pursuing the certificate programs. And we do offer an associate's program through our Pennsylvania schools, which are 20 months, so it's a little bit less than the traditional. And again, we take great pride in getting people through the programs in the time that's prescribed. Again, I think as a young person, whether you're in, the 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th, 12th, and I would say to the parents, really take a look at some of these, vocations.
Right. And I know back in the day, it was kind of like I played the viola in high school. Okay. And I was embarrassed to be in the orchestra because it just wasn't cool, right?
Right.
So I'd leave for school really early so I could carry in my viola and put it in my locker before everybody else showed up. And it's the reason I tell that story, because it reminds me a little bit of the trade schools. If you didn't go to a traditional four-year school and get your, butt in debt for who knows how much, then you kind of were just not all what everybody expected you to be. The trades weren't it. I know I tried to get my daughter to be a plumber, and I'm not kidding. But I think that that's all kind of been pushed aside now. You don't really have the stereotypes of the skilled trades. These people are out there making good livings and have great careers.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the way that I think families and prospective students should think about it is, it's a way to gain a tangible skill that is highly sought after in the marketplace that can't be outsourced, and and again, I think if you have some degree of business acumen, you learn a skill. So let's just say you want to become a plumber or an electrician. So you learn that tangible skill. You work as an apprentice for a few years, and then if you're really, I would say, interested in running your own business, it's a great opportunity to take that tangible skill, that fundamental skill that you learn in 1 year of school, and really make something of yourself and make something of that investment that you've made in yourself. And I think when I look at this, I think one, the stigma is sort of, I would say, going away a little bit
Hmm.
in terms of, oh, I don't want my son or daughter to be an electrician or a practical nurse or a dental assistant or a vet tech
Yeah,
or
they got to go to college because everybody else did.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. And I would say that for a lot of families now, when you really take a hard look at what you're getting, I think folks are starting to question, the return on time and the return on money. And I think that when you look at the opportunity cost of somebody who goes, for 1 year to become, let's just say, an electrician or an HVAC tech or a plumber, they spend 1 year technically out of the workforce, and then when you compare that to a student who's going, and again, I have nothing against folks who want to pursue additional education, because I do think
Right.
you have to sort of
Right.
subscribe to
Right.
lifelong learning, but I think that when you look at the person who goes and gets a degree, that you know there's a hard there's a hard time correlating what are the actual tangible skills that you get in comparison to the workplace in terms of where you can sort of end up. You've got 3 years of school where our graduate has been working for 3 years.
Hmm.
um, our graduate may have incurred some debt to finance their education, so they're already repaying that debt. The amount of time they're in school is less, so there's less debt. And again, I think the longer term prognosis, for those folks, depending on what their aspirations are as an individual. Again, I go back to that person who has become an electrician or a plumber or an HVAC tech or some other an automotive technician. And they decide that they want to open up their own business. I mean, they'll go back to school, buy, if you will, buy some education or learn some education online in terms of management, understanding, business practices, understanding all the things that they're going to need to be successful. And again, I think when I talk to, some of our graduates, I encourage them that, look, in this day and age, technology plays such an important part that, you have to subscribe to lifelong learning.
You
And
do. And we hear these two words, essential workers, and that's what a lot of these folks are. And, we should also talk a little bit about the flexibility. Whether people are getting into the practical nursing program, maybe you were a stay-at-home mom and now you've got the freedom to pursue your education, and with your blended learning format, you've really made things more flexible, and so that people can, it's kind of on demand, right? Their online education, but not missing the point of the hands-on learning in your industry model labs. So let's talk a little bit about that.
yeah, so with regards to the approach that we've taken this hybrid approach. So it's what we believe is the best of both worlds. You have lecture online and lab on ground. And so what students are doing is they have time of day flexibility. Students still have to go to school every day, but the way that I sort of represent it to prospective students is let's just say that historically you had to be in class at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, and let's just say you're a single mom or dad, and you wake up and your son or daughter is not feeling well, or or something's going on in your life. Historically, when you had to attend a campus at a certain time, because we had strict attendance rules when we were on ground, if you will, or residential. You had all that stress in the morning, and now what we've done is we've designed the educational piece, at least the lecture piece, where you have time and day flexibility. So let's just say that you have to quickly run to the doctor, maybe to sort of figure out what's wrong with your son or daughter. and so maybe that, that situation occurs, and then you can come back home and get people settled, get your family settled, and then you can actually take the time to do your work, your lecture related work. And and again, some of that, lecture is what we call asynchronous, or it's pre-recorded, if you will, and you have to interact with that material. And again, I would say that there's a higher degree of active learning going on, because you really have to engage with the material versus just, I mean, I think for some of us, sitting in a classroom sometimes isn't, at least my experience was such that it wasn't always that robust. I mean, in terms of just getting distracted myself, thinking about other things and
Hmm.
maybe not paying 100% attention. And so, in our view, I think we're getting the best of both worlds. So you get that lecture online; it's either delivered asynchronously or synchronously. We do have some live classes, and again, we always have our faculty members available for students to get help if they don't understand the material. And again, I think for some students, it's helpful for them to go back and replay the material. So,
Hmm.
so again, if you think about a live class physically, if you didn't attend class, you were sort of out of
You
luck,
lose it.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
right.
gotta find the smart kid with the notes.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, exactly. And again, and try to put it into context as well. So, and then I think the great thing is that, our students are coming on campus a couple days a week, and, the information they're learning in terms of the theory and the concepts in lecture, they're then being able to apply that in our industry modeled labs. So, again, students will spend a couple days with the lecture material online, and then they'll come in and they'll practically apply it.
The other thing that I've learned, and if you're just tuning in, we're speaking with Jim Bologa. He's the president and CEO of Porter and Chester Institute. And there are campuses all across the state. So there are a couple days with a lot of these programs, some of the programs that you do need to go to campus. But I also want to talk about the externships. Back in the day, in the TV days, we called them internships. And that's how you really got your foot in the door. And I always told people, when I worked at various TV stations when they were interns, give it your best shot, do the best job you can, get the hottest coffee, move, 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 and you might get a job out of it. But your externship programs are really valuable to these graduates too, and it's a real look inside of the career that they're going after.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I mean, many of the externships that we offer are in and around healthcare. So again, if you're interested in becoming a dental assistant, you'll have an externship experience at the end of your academic career, and that'll be some time spent out in the real world, and you'll be working with a dentist and his staff or her staff, and it's a great opportunity for our students to just move right from that externship experience right into full time employment.
I don't mean to interrupt you. I was just talking to someone who's in charge of a vet tech program at Shiloh Veterinary Hospital up in York. And he was saying that currently they have, he couldn't even remember they had so many, maybe 7 or 8 of the YTI Career Institute externs up there. And he's like, they're the best. They come here, and what would we do without them? Because, so many companies right now are just overwhelmed and inundated and hard to find good people. And so, they're really grateful for your externs.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think again, it's a great opportunity in this environment right now for employers and our students, soon to be graduates, to really get a good sense of what the work environment's like, and whether or not there's a good match. And again, whether you want to pursue becoming a respiratory therapist, because again, you'll spend some clinical time, or a vet tech where you're also spending clinical time, dental assisting, medical assisting, and our practical nursing program. Our students are spending time in clinical environments. And the one thing I would say is right now we are having to still balance COVID and COVID related, I will call work stoppages, because again, we're still, in the midst of the pandemic, because we're still experiencing that in these healthcare environments. And, so again, we're trying to be very, very flexible in terms of how we work with our students around all this stuff. But again, I think it's a good experience for them, because they're engaged in the real world, and this is what happens in the real world.
Right. And a
There's
lot of these students, too, Jim, we should mention, might have to work part time. They might have to, create an income to support their families and at the same time pursuing their education. So it's not just flexibility in time of day, there's other flexibilities that are also involved with that.
Yeah. Again, I think I think for us, we've really tried to think about how to design a person being able to go through our programs in the most flexible way. So again, historically, a student would have to spend 5 days coming to school.
Mhm.
So if you think about it, let's just say that they had to commute, just say 30 minutes, to and from. And so, there's an hour of day that, they had to spend, traveling. They'll still have to come to school, 2 or 3 days a week. So they pick up a couple hours there. And then they've got the flexibility within the day to do their work, which is also, helpful. And again, I think as you look at the cost, not only in terms of the time, but, again, if students are only coming to campus, 2 or 3 days a week, they don't have to incur the gas costs, and with gas prices rising now, that's also a benefit.
A huge savings.
Yeah.
This would be a good time too to tell people if they want more information on your programs, they can go to Porter Chester, all one word, .edu, and also yti.edu if you're interested in any of the programs in Pennsylvania. And the other beauty of it is some of your programs, and I know that you're moving in this direction, some of them may be totally online, so people can access these online programs and these certificates from anywhere.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because again, one of the things that we've done through the pandemic is a program like CAD, computer aided drafting and design. We've moved that from on ground, 100% on ground, to online, 100% online, and so students can take that program in and around their existing schedule. So your earlier point about folks maybe having to work, a part-time job or having other family member commitments that they've got to attend to, they can fit that education into their lives. Our computer network technology program is another program that's gone from 100% on ground to 100% online.
Hmm.
And we also have a program called Computer Data Management. That's an associate degree program offered through our Pennsylvania school. And that program is a little bit more robust in terms of being a bit more comprehensive around computer data management, cloud management, security management. And then the other program that we're seeing a lot of traction in is medical billing and coding.
Right.
Because again, this is a remote, a potentially remote job that a person could have. So not only can you go to school online 100%, but you can then actually go and work online effectively 100%. And it's a remote working position. And sort of to complement that, we have a health information management associate's degree as well. That's a little bit more robust. It gets into healthcare and big data management. And so that's a relatively new program for us, and we're excited about that, given the focus around healthcare and around data and around statistics, if you will. And then the other program that I'm very excited about taking, again, from 100% residential to 100% online, is our business operations management program. So if you have more of a operational focus, this is a great program that you can take. Again, it's an associate's degree through YTI Career Institute, and you can take it online. And again, if you're I'd say if you're an alum of ours and you're a plumber, an electrician, or an automotive technician, or HVAC tech, or really any person who wants to learn more about business and about business operations, it's a great program.
So a little something there for everybody. Well, Jim, I know that you have obviously your pulse on the educational programs that Porter and Chester and YTI Career Institute offers, but I also like your perspective because you're also involved, in the legislative thing, what's going on in the state of Connecticut. With the 4 minutes that we got left, I mean, where do you think we're at? Where do you think Connecticut is? I mean, what do we need to do better? If the trades could just fill up, if more people were out there working, I think we'd all be a little bit better off, right? Get off your damn couch and go to work.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a state goes, I do think that we are starting to see a change where folks are recognizing that the educational programs that we offer and the related vocations or jobs, there's real paths for the citizens of Connecticut. I mean, again, there's not a day that doesn't go by where I don't get a phone call from an employer in the state, and again, it could range from a healthcare professional to an IT professional to
Car dealership.
car dealership to any skilled trade, and I would just say, right now, one of the things that I would encourage, the state and the listeners to think about it, especially if you've got a younger person in your home and they're not really sure, is a lot of young people took gap years after high school. And, one of the things that I've talked to parents about is, hey, it's not a bad thing if your son or daughter learns how to, become a plumber or become an electrician. They can do it in a year, and who knows, like, where that second year goes, and who's to say that, maybe they do get, a college degree down the road, an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, but they do it over time, as their job in their life, they can integrate it into their lives, and it goes into this whole concept of continuous lifelong learning.
Right.
And, versus this, I think for all of us and myself included, having this watershed experience, from 18 to 22, where you just sort of unplugged and, you went to sort of find yourself in college. I mean, I was fortunate enough that, I think, I came out of school, as an accounting major. So, I sort of view myself no differently than an electrician or an HVAC tech or, any other licensed professional.
Right.
And so again, I would just, I think that's where things are at right now. And I do think that folks are definitely trying to balance the return on time and the return on the money, if you will, with programs that get folks into viable jobs.
Right. And I don't know when the last time our listeners out there tried to get a hold of a plumber or an electrician or, just my low oil light went on, and it took me a month and a half to get into the dealership for an oil change. So I don't think there's any lack of employment out there, and it's not just Connecticut; it's all over the country, and we need people out there that get into these trades to keep this place rolling. Because if we don't, we're in trouble.
Yeah, and the last thing I would say is that I think when we sort of look at things, at least I do, the way I look at it with with my family and my kids, is that when you think about taking 1 year to just sort of find yourself, the time and the investment, right, for 1 year is probably a little bit easier for folks to digest than trying to go for 4 years, and having 4 years of time and 4 years of costs, and realizing at the end of those 4 years that maybe
That I'm going to be a waitress. No,
yeah.
and when we're not trying to downplay college education. I mean, we're both college graduates, and it is for a lot of people. But there's also some people where they might be better suited, with a year under their belt and a skilled trade. So, this has been an interesting conversation. And again, if you want more information on either the Porter and Chester campuses and programs, you can go to porterchester.edu. And they have campuses in Massachusetts and also here in Connecticut, and then up in Pennsylvania, YTI Career Institute, and it's yti.edu. Hey, it doesn't hurt to check it out, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Jim Bologa, it's been great seeing you. Thanks for this wonderful conversation, and continued success, as I always like to say.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
My pleasure. And it was my pleasure having our listeners along today. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of News You Can Use right here on WTIC NewsTalk 1080.